It's been a year since I've stopped nursing and working in a career that no longer was fulfilling me. I wanted to come on here and share with you some words of inspiration, a little bit about my story, in hopes that you can start to really follow your heart, your intuition, and live the life of your dreams. So stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name's Svola, and today I wanted to share with you what it looks like when maybe you're feeling the pull to leave your job, change your career, and start life in a new way. So let this be an inspiration to you, and of course, take what works, leave what doesn't, because ultimately this is about you walking out your own path. I got my notes here. Don't mind me if I'm looking at the camera, looking at my notes. I want to kind of keep on track with that. So I officially stopped nursing in May 2024. It's been basically a year since I decided to contact the college and completely just leave my registration behind me. And in the past, I'd gone through periods of kind of like touching on that energy, wanting to step away, but not really sure how, not really sure if it was me just kind of feeling, in the whimsicalness that I can sometimes be very spontaneous. But this feeling last year for me was a repeat of the years previous to that. So a bit of a backstory for you was back in 2022, I had been working in the healthcare system. This was sort of at the peak period of the pandemic, and there was an exodus of staff that were leaving. And it was around that time, a build up to October 2022, that I was really feeling this sense of moral distress. Working in psychiatry, one comes against a lot of different worldviews, certain values and approaches to health and wellness. And for me at the time, and what was kind of being mirrored in the society, was a sense of personal freedom, of what it looks like to be in health and wellness. And for me, it was the final, the nail that broke the straw that broke the camel's back, that saying. It was time to go. So I took that as my kind of sign. Spirit was saying, either you leave or I'm going to get you out, which happens so many times. And the reason I'm sharing this with you guys is because I kind of hope that you can see it doesn't have to be this overnight change in your life. We don't need things to be so dramatic. You can trust that there is a gradual transition that can occur for you. But of course, sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes people lose their jobs, right? And it's funny because I have worked with many different people, in therapy and coaching and the healing world. And it happens so much where people get that rug pulled out from underneath them overnight around whatever it might be, whether it's a job, a relationship, something about their life path that they've been on. But when you actually really start talking to them, when they really start to reflect about where their life has been and where they were going, it's sort of like a blessing in disguise. So this doesn't mean there's no grief, of course. Grief happens, and that's been a huge part of my journey here. That it's sometimes these things occur, these transitions happen quickly because it's meant to, and you've kind of been taking it a little too long. And I witnessed that a lot in that period of October 2022 amongst, different coworkers, colleagues, friends that were working in the healthcare system, that they too were feeling that nudge to move on, but it's there was a bit of fear. They didn't want to, but they were made to. So without getting into the politics of that, this transition for myself was slow. So that was October 2022. I decided to finally go off and do my own thing, full-time, private practice, see people within the therapy world, within the shamanic healing and energy work world, which I'd been doing for a while, and to start to really dive into the plant medicine integration work. That was something that really interested me. And I did that for, I guess, a year and a half, really developing my practice, developing my skills, and I enjoyed it. except there was this energy always in the back of kind of like being in this box again, like feeling this structure around me, not really feeling like I could be myself, feeling like I had to police my words and what I was going to say or what I was going to offer, and that just wasn't really aligning for me. And so I started to recognize around that like February, March of 2023 that something needed to change. I guess when I think back, that was not very long ago. I had this like sense inside of me that maybe I need to just let go of this nursing. Maybe this isn't going to align. This career path I chose all those many years ago, I put so much money into studying, time and energy, developing myself as a nurse. And I decided to take a break from that. So in May 2023, that's around the time our registration is up for renewal, I decided to put myself on a sabbatical because that was an option and it felt like the most easeful. It's hard to let go. It really is very hard to let go. To something that you have like created as your identity, something that you have said is you. Even though I would tell people all the time, like, oh, I'm not a real nurse. Like that was, I did nursing, but like that's not really who I am. It takes time, it takes courage, and again, it doesn't have to happen overnight. Maybe there are ways you can make a slow transition. For me, it was filling out this registration form and putting myself to like a non-practicing sabbatical leave to take care of myself and learn things and figure out where I was going with my life. But then this kind of opened up, I guess, a can of worms, and I was realizing, I was enjoying, I guess, the period of time off. But when it got to that like September, October of that same year, I started to like feel these pulls back to the old. And this is something I've learned, that when we are making a change in like anything, the universe kind of tests us and brings the old life back, puts those like temptations back on our path so that it can see, I guess, what we're going to choose. And at the time, that would have been, October, September of that year, 2023, I was starting to have old clients come back to me. But I was thinking about them, and then they were like showing up, hey, are you still seeing people? Could I come in for a session? And some of my old employers were calling me back to do work and making it sound like very desperate. And I say that because I feel like there's a heavy codependency energy with a lot of people in caregiver roles. I know that's the case for me. It might be the case for you, where we feel this need to help or fix people, and we can really pick up on I want to say desperation of others. And so for me, I decided, okay, November, I'm going to go back. That's fine. It's like the half-year mark. It won't be so expensive to renew my registration, and I have these job opportunities that I can do. Like there must be a reason for that. So I did that, but then of course, January, February of 2024 comes along, and I'm back to that same place of what am I doing? So it was like this internal battle for me to really tap into, do I actually want to do this? And what I was getting is like, no, you're done. You have to be done. It's done. Things were like coming back to me, just recognizing, I guess, some of the harms, I want to say, of working in psychiatry. I'm not talking about the harms psychiatry can maybe put onto people that are going through the system, but especially for staff, and these were some of the things I learned as I went through May 2024 and my decision to completely, finally leave. And I guess I want to just add to this, I'll talk a bit about some of these like problems I was facing with making this decision. I think the number one part, especially for people when they're making a change in career, stepping away from work that they used to do, saying goodbye to old positions, there is this major like sense of uncertainty and doubt, especially around how am I going to survive? What are my finances going to look like? When you've been making a lot of money, especially as a nurse, it's like having that gone can put in a lot of stress. I'm like a single parent, basically. At least I was like living on my own with my kid, doing that, kind of providing a lot for her care. So to have to step away, or making the choice to step away from that because it just felt like this is what needs to happen, that's hard. Because sometimes it requires then asking for help financially or in other means. And for me, that's like a huge pride thing. I think that's the case for many people. It's like when you're told and encouraged to be like a strong, independent woman, a strong, independent man, and you're making this decision to put yourself in like the other shoe, in the more receptive, receiving place instead of going for it and doing it. So this uncertainty of finances was definitely a thing I went through. Another huge part was that sense of like identity. Basically letting go of my degree, letting go of all the knowledge, all the information, so to speak, because I would say I still use it. Letting go of that, letting go of like, oh, that's who I am, and instead being open, I guess, to receiving what next steps wanted to come through. And so something that really helped me during that time of kind of like stepping away, letting go, was I was being told a lot of stories from people around me about what it looks like to not register with the college, say, for psych nurses. And I decided to just have the conversation with myself. And I learned this actually when I first left the healthcare system, because a huge thing, especially with nurses, they tell you, they're like, oh, you can't leave, like your benefits, your pension, like there's these things that the box creates or has, I guess, gifted us to keep us within, right? Certain promises that we are told. It's almost like a really toxic or abusive relationship. The partner's like not really the best, but they offer you certain things that like you think that's the only way you can get it. And what I learned back in that like October 2022 leaving was, all I need to do is make a phone call with the actual organization. Like in that case, it was the people that provide the insurance, like health insurance, and be like, hey, like what are my options? And so I did that before I left in May last year. I made a call to the college and I just had a serious conversation. Like, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm kind of thinking I'd like to go. Now, what do I need to know about that? And it was that conversation and getting like the actual truth from someone in the college about, oh yeah, like it's totally fine. You have up to 10 years if you decide you want to come back. These are some of the requirements along the way. And it was not as big of a deal as I had been told by others. Information kind of being passed through like that grapevine and actually not at all true. So, they say ignorance is bliss, but I think actually having knowledge is like one of the best things that can happen, especially when you're making a decision like this, when you're wanting to create some type of change in your life. So another huge thing I would say, I mentioned it before, that I was facing was the grief. So there's a knowledge aspect, there's like the survival, wanting to thrive aspect, and then there was this consideration of grief, of loss. And that, my friends, is like still very heavy. I just went through this the other week, where I got a call from an old referral source and they wanted to bring some clients my way, and I told them, I'm actually not even doing that work anymore. And the lady on the line told me, okay, well, that's fine. Like, I'm just going to take your name off the list. And I had like just that grief come in this huge wave. And I felt like, oh my gosh, like that part of me still has this attachment. And I don't know if that ever goes away. I do trust, and I would say it becomes lighter. Especially lighter than the last like initial back in 2022. But this is, I guess, part of life. Grief, loss can be some of our greatest teachers. So we have to go with the flow of that. And grief for me, as I continue to experience it and recognize the places where maybe I'm still holding on, I see it as a gift to just send some love to that part of myself. And to really just recognize the gift that life or that experience working as a nurse offered me. because you can do this too in your life, is what have been, I guess, the contributions to your life from your career, from your work, from your choices. Everything has led to us learning more about ourselves, even if it means learning the things that we don't want. And that's totally okay. That's how we build more of a sense of a life of what we do want, what we do desire, what's in alignment for our lives. So why might you want to do these things? Why might you want to take the change, make the change, take the jump, or dive into some other path? For me, the big thing, I guess, in terms of learning is this trusting of spirit. Trusting that there is like a greater plan for my life that I may not even recognize, and that's okay. The sense of like opening up and being in the flow of life has completely shifted for me. I thought I was doing that, by taking the reins and like making the changes in my life. A lot of it, though, had been me directing it, me doing it, and that felt more safe, it felt comfortable. So, of course, I would do it that way. But since leaving in May 2024, things have completely changed. I've had to let go of things, or chosen to let go of things, I guess, or agreed to let go, because Spirit's like, that's it, it's done. And there has really been like a transition, I guess I want to say, from the me in the driver's seat to me being in like a Tesla, that's on automatic pilot. And I'm kind of holding the wheels, but like I'm just going for the ride. I don't really know where we're going. Maybe I kind of have a sense. But what has opened up for me around this place of trusting spirit, opening up, I mentioned this healing of like codependent patterns. And again, I believe many of you watching probably have a sense of codependency or these patterns, and it's not a judgment. I think a lot of people do. It's just we operate from that place. We operate from the place of feeling in relationship that we need to fix or heal others or make things right because we can feel so much what's going on. And the other person or place or whatever it is not doing their part in the relationship. Or they're causing more harm, potentially. And so with codependency, it's about really coming back to self-love, tuning into what one actually truly wants, not what they think they want based on everyone else around them. And the way to shift that, I think, for me, has been to just really separate myself from what I thought it needed to be or look like. What other sorts of experience I was going through over the past few years that maybe were influencing how I was acting, how I wanted to show up in the world. And this healing of codependency means that I'm stepping more into my own like authentic self. And this can mean some people don't like that, right? We may lose relationships. It may completely change your life, but I would say it's really worth it because you start to welcome in more love, more deep connection with people and places, and yeah. Another huge thing for me was around healing the nervous system. And that was something I didn't really recognize. But it's been like kind of like a slow or gradual kind of recognition since leaving my old job, which was very much crisis, intensive care, like working with police, working with like first responders, tuning into like the urgency of people's situations. And when I first stepped away from that, I recognized like, wow, I'm so addicted to crisis chaos. Like, I thrive there. But that was like PTSD. That was like old story. It was me having grown up in a household that was a bit chaotic. And it just felt like so normal to my nervous system to be in chaos. And when I stepped away from that work, and as I stepped away from nursing, I started to recognize like, wow, like my nervous system really just wanted this pause, wanted this ease, and it's been really great. At times uncomfortable, but I think now, being it's like a year, for sure, I like can just sit and not do anything. It's very, very different than how old Fola, I would say, operated. But this sense for me of just like ease and being in flow, being in my more feminine aspects, being open to receiving whatever the universe wants to bring through whomever, and not judging it, because I just am recognizing that everything is meant for us to receive if we are willing to receive the good, the bad, the ugly, and the really great things. And with this, a huge part of the learning has been that I get to step into more of the things that I love. This place of really tapping into my creative potential. I have revisited music, which is something I actually wanted to do all those many years ago. When I was leaving high school, going into university, it was between psychology and it was between music. But at that time, music just seemed like this thing that I just did not have the courage for. I was too scared to audition to get into fine arts programs. It was I just had such a need to be perfect and right that I just couldn't face that. So I let that go. And over the years, that connection with music and creativity, the art sort of left me, until now, here I am. And I feel so grateful for my partner, the right people who've come in that have encouraged this reconnection to the arts, to music. And now with this year of a break from the old into the new, I am re-tapping into whatever that is, and in completely new ways that I didn't even know existed. So there's this feeling of less pressure of having to do, and just allowing, just being in the flow. And you might be wondering hey, that's your story, Fola, great, thanks for sharing it. Or, okay, that's great for you, but what about me? You may have some objections. You may feel this isn't your path. You might have been in your career, your work for 30 years or more, whatever your situation is. Maybe you've just finished school and you're about to start a job and you're no, I can't do this. But the pressure to do it is coming from everywhere, 360 degrees, and also from yourself. Because I think ultimately we are our hardest judges. And that's okay. I know it can be really difficult to let go of control and to put your faith and trust into something unknown, something unseen. And I said it before, I'm saying it again, is I'm not telling you that you need to take a dive right off the bat, and that might not be the case. I saw in a video the other day, the guy said, maybe you want to quit your job. He was but what you should actually do is don't quit it, just come in and start to be yourself. Do your job the way you want to do it. Live your life the way you feel called. And if your job decides that oh my God, this does not work for us, and you get fired, okay. But he's but what if you get promoted, right? What if things change for you? Can you trust that just you showing up as yourself and saying hey, spirit, God, creator, universe, however you want to identify it, the energy of all source light that has created this world, I'm putting my faith in you. And can we do this in a gentle, loving way? In a clear way, so that I can follow this path? And what I'm saying here is that there has to be something about this trust and listening to spirit, but most importantly, this comes from the heart space. There's a pull. It's heart and womb. I talk about the womb. I talk about the pelvic center of gravity as this place that helps us to make grounded decisions. But when we have passions and we feel something in our heart, this pulling towards a path or towards a way of life, we have to listen to that. I really actually do think that heart attacks, for instance, are people just not falling or aligning with that love of life in the same way. I mean, obviously there can be other reasons too. But what does this mean for you to follow your heart? And wherever you are, whatever you're doing in your life, can you trust this calling? Can you trust that there is something that's shifting? And I mentioned, I think before about the astrological kind of connection. For me, it was a huge recognition that 2008, Pluto went into Capricorn, Very deep subconscious energy. I'm a Scorpio, so Pluto tied to that was very big. There's like a rebirthing energy occurring. And that all completely changed in October of 2024, where Pluto was no longer in Capricorn. It won't be in Capricorn for the rest of our lives. And that was the recognition for me. When I think about Capricorn, I think about the devil card. That's its kind of like zodiacal sign or connection. And we have this creature of the devil chaining a man and a woman to this black box of Saturn, this black box of time and structure. And we can be so held on to what we think is like this leash, and we don't have control, but it's a lie, because in that card itself, those two individuals, they have these chains around their neck, but they can easily just take the chains off because they're loose. You get to just walk away. You get to make the choice. And I think this might just come really easy to me. Well, not easy, but as a Scorpio, I can tell you transformation, change, death, dying is like such a part of my life that it's like, oh, okay, what's next? But this does not mean we have to blow up our worlds, right? Like, we don't have to create more chaos. We can do it in a way that's easeful, peaceful, gentle, loving towards self and towards others. But what is it around, your life, your birth chart, your story that may be wanting to create change? And can you trust that even in the most difficult times within these changes, or when life does kind of pull the rug underneath you, that it's all happening for a reason? So I don't really know what the future holds for all of us, each of us, collectively, individually. But what I do know is that I can trust spirit, that everything is being guided, I am being led, and so are you. And that there's a plan for your life. So can you be willing, though, to take maybe whatever necessary next step? Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's having a conversation with someone. Maybe it's really just sitting down and getting honest with yourself of like, where do I actually see my life? What's no longer serving me? Write those things down. Journal about it. Meditate on it. And just trust that everything is going on for you exactly the way it needs to. But there can be so much beautiful value. There can be change in your life that will be that ease, peace, and glory, as they say in Access. So I hope this message supported you, whatever you need to do with it. If you need to share it with someone, do so. If you liked it, hit like, leave a comment. Let's have some conversation. What are you bumping up against? And hit subscribe if you'd like to join. Starting in June, I'm going to be hosting energy sessions, healing online for the community members in the Practicus membership. And there's going to be other offerings for the various tiers. I do rituals in the membership here in the community on YouTube. So you can hit the join button and become a part of that if you feel called. I really hope that, wherever you are, whatever you're doing in your life, this can be an inspiration for you. And just trust. Everything is working in your favor. So until the next time, folks, I'll see you in another video. Bye.